Hello everyone. In today's lecture we are going to discuss new mineral, that is sodium. So sodium is one of the principal mineral from 7 macro minerals or principal minerals. In this video lecture we will see all these points about sodium, that is biochemical functions, dietary requirements of sodium. After that we will see sources of sodium, that means from which foodstuff or food items we can get sodium. Then after that we will see absorption of sodium in gastrointestinal tract, then serum level of sodium. After that we will see excretion of sodium, and after that we will see disease states. So let us start with sodium. The content of sodium in the adult male is 92 grams. So we have already seen some macro minerals, that is calcium. So calcium is present in our body about 1 to 1.5 kg. While after that we have seen phosphate, and which is present in our body about 1 kg. After that we have seen magnesium, which is again one of the principal mineral, and this magnesium is present in our body approximately 20 grams. So this sodium is present in our body approximately 92 grams. So out of this 92 grams, approximately 46 gram is located in the ECF. ECF, that means extracellular fluid. So in ECF or extracellular fluid, sodium content is 46 gram, and this sodium is present in the concentration of 135 to 145 millimole per liters. Out of 92 grams of sodium which is present in our body, approximately 11 gram is found in ICF, that means intracellular fluid. The fluid which is present inside of the cell, that fluid is called as ICF, while the fluid which is present outside of the cell, that fluid is called as extracellular fluid. For example, blood is the extracellular fluid. So 11 gram of sodium is present in the ICF at the concentration of approximately 10 millimole per liter. So sodium is present in more amount in the extracellular fluid, while less present in the intracellular fluid. Approximately 35 gram out of 92 grams of sodium which is found in the skeleton, that means in the bones. So 46 gram is present in ECF, 11 gram present in ICF, and approximately 35 grams present in the skeleton, and total content of sodium in the adult male is 92 gram. So about 40% of body sodium is present in ECF, while 50% which is present in the bones, and remaining 10% is present in the soft tissue. So this is about the content of sodium in the body. So see this table. In this table, at one side there is given various substances, organic and inorganic substances, and in the second column that is ECF, and third column that is ICF. So here sodium is present in the extracellular fluid approximately 142 milliequilibrium per liter, and in ICF sodium is present 10 milliequilibrium per liters. So out of all these organic and inorganic substances, in the ECF more amount is 142 milliequilibrium. That means sodium is the main substance which is present in extracellular fluid. So we can say that sodium is chief cation of extracellular fluid. So in ICF, we will find that 140 milliequilibrium. That means potassium is present in more quantity. So chief cation of ICF is the potassium, while chief cation of ECF is sodium. So sodium is the chief cation of extracellular fluid. That means in extracellular fluid, sodium is present in the more quantity. That means 142 milliequilibrium per liter. So let us see biochemical functions of sodium. In association with chloride and bicarbonate, sodium regulates the body acid-base balance. So sodium is important cation in the extracellular fluid, as well as it regulates acid-base balance because it is present in the more quantity, and along with chloride and bicarbonate, it regulates our acid-base balance. Then second biochemical function is it is necessary for normal muscular functions and cell permeability. So sodium is one of the important ion which is responsible for muscular activities, because sodium helps through the sodium potassium pump for the muscular activity as well as the cell permeability. So another function of the sodium is that it necessary for normal muscular function and cell permeability through the various pumps. For example, sodium potassium pump is helpful for the muscular activity. Then third function of sodium is that sodium is required for maintenance of osmotic pressure in the fluid balance. So osmotic pressure is created by solutes which are present in the fluids. So sodium is the chief cation of extracellular fluid, so that sodium is responsible for creating osmotic pressure and fluid balance, because it is the chief substance which is present in the extracellular fluid, or chief solute or main solute in the extracellular fluid. So that sodium is required for maintenance of osmotic pressure as well as fluid balance. The next function of sodium is that sodium is necessary for initiating and maintaining the heartbeat. Again, sodium is the main solute in the blood, so that sodium is responsible for increasing the extracellular fluid, and along with the sodium, water is also absorbed in the vessels, and so that there is an increased cardiac output, and if cardiac output get increased, then force of contraction of heart get increases, and ultimately there is a initiation and maintenance of the heartbeat. So that sodium is one of the important solute or ion which is responsible for initiation and maintenance of the heart rate or heartbeat. Now let us see the dietary requirements of sodium in the normal individuals. So for normal individuals, requirement of Na, that means sodium, is about 5 to 10 gram per day, and which is mainly consumed as NaCl, that means common salt. So in normal individuals, requirement of sodium is about 5 to 10 gram per day. So per day requirement of sodium is 5 to 10 grams, and it is consumed in the form of common salt, that means table salt. But what about the persons having family history of hypertension or persons with hypertension? The daily requirement in these persons is different. So this requirement is for normal individuals. So for normal individuals, sodium requirement is 5 to 10 gram per day. So let us see the persons having family history of hypertension. So sodium dietary requirement for the persons with a family history of hypertension. That means a person having hypertensive mother, father, or any blood relatives. So for that persons, the daily NaCl intake should be less than 5 grams. So we have seen just that in normal individuals, daily requirement is 5 to 10 grams, while for the persons having family history of hypertension, the daily requirement of sodium should be less than 5 grams. So persons having family history of hypertension should take sodium in their daily diet less than 5 grams. So after that we will see the daily requirement for the patients of hypertension. So dietary requirement of sodium for persons with the hypertension. So for patient of hypertension, around 1 gram per day is recommended. So it is only 1 gram per day in the persons having hypertension. It may be noted that 10 gram of NaCl contains 4 gram of sodium. So the persons having hypertension should take only 2.5 grams of NaCl. That means 2.5 grams of common salt should be taken in a day for the persons having hypertension. So we have seen the dietary requirements for normal individuals, for persons having family history of hypertension, and patients of hypertension. So for normal individuals, dietary requirement of sodium is 5 to 10 gram per day, while in the persons having family history of hypertension, dietary requirement of sodium should be less than 5 grams, while in the patients of hypertension, sodium dietary requirement should be less than 1 gram per day. Now let us see the sources of sodium. So one of the common source of sodium is the common salt or table salt. The common salt, that means NaCl or sodium chloride, is used in the cooking medium is the major source of sodium. So major source of sodium in our daily diet is the common salt. The ingested foods also contribute to sodium. So some of the food stuff or food items also contain sodium. So let us see that food items. The good sources of sodium include bread, whole grains, leafy vegetables, nuts, eggs, and milk. So these are the good sources of sodium, while the main or major source of sodium is the common salt. Now let us see the absorption of sodium. So sodium is readily absorbed in the gastrointestinal tract. So here the word is very important, that is readily. Readily, that means very easily or without any hesitation or without any help. So sodium is easily absorbed in the gastrointestinal tract, so that very little of it, that means less than 2%, is normally found in feces, because sodium is very easily absorbed in the GI tract, so very less amount is excreted along with the feces. However, in the diarrhea, large quantities of sodium is lost in the feces. So during the gastrointestinal disorders such as diarrhea, sodium excretion through feces is increased along with the water. Now let us see the serum level of sodium. So normal serum level of sodium we have seen in this in the chart in the previous slide, that is 135 to 145 milliequilibrium per liter. So normal serum level of sodium is about 135 to 145 milliequilibrium per liter. So again it can be asked for one liner question and very important question. Now sodium excretion. So there are two important organs for the excretion of sodium. One of that is the kidney and second is the skin. So in kidney, sodium get excreted out in the form of urine, while from the skin, sodium is excreted out along with the perspiration or in the form of sweat. So kidney is the major route of sodium excretion from the body, and another route, that is skin. So skin also causes considerable amount of sodium loss from the body. So kidney is the major route of sodium excretion from the body. So one important hormone which is responsible for sodium excretion and sodium absorption in the kidney, that is aldosterone. So as much as 800 gram of sodium per day is filtered by the glomeruli. 99% of this is reabsorbed by the renal tubules by an active process, and this is controlled by aldosterone hormone. So extreme sweating also causes considerable amount of sodium from loss from the body. So sodium excretion is through urine and sweat. So aldosterone is important hormone which affects the excretion of sodium from kidney as well as from skin. Now disease state. So there are two terminologies, hyponatremia and hypernatremia. So hyponatremia, that means hypo means less, natremia is term related to sodium content in the blood, while hyper is more and natremia again sodium concentration in the blood. So when there is a less serum level in the blood of sodium, then that terminology is called as hyponatremia, and when there is a excess level of sodium in the serum, then that terminology is called as hypernatremia. So let us see all both terminology. First, hyponatremia. So hyponatremia, this is a condition in which serum sodium level falls below the normal. So we have seen that normal serum level is that 135 to 145 milliequilibrium per liter, and if this serum level falls down below the normal level, that means 135 to 145 milliequilibrium per liter, then that condition is called as hyponatremia. The normal concentration of sodium is 135 to 145 milliequilibrium per liter in the serum, and when this level falls down, then the condition is called as hyponatremia. So hyponatremia may occur due to diarrhea, vomiting and renal diseases and adrenocortical insufficiency, that means Addison's disease. So in diarrhea, vomiting and chronic renal diseases, sodium excretion is more, so that in the body or in the serum sodium content decreases, and that terminology is called as hyponatremia. So these are the various disorders. In these disorders there is a condition of hyponatremia. Administration of salt free fluids to patient may also cause hyponatremia. That means sodium content or sodium free fluids can cause hyponatremia. So administration of less or no sodium in the fluids, and this administration of like these fluids causes hyponatremia also. The manifestation of hyponatremia include reduced blood pressure and circulatory failure. If there is a hyponatremia, then what will happen? There is a blood pressure get reduced, as well as there may be a cardiac failure, because sodium is the main solute or main ion which is present in the blood, and so that osmotic pressure get reduces, and so that blood pressure get also affected and get reduced, and there may be circulatory failure, because sodium is one of the important ion in the ECF, which is important for maintaining the blood pressure. And if this sodium get reduced in the serum, then blood pressure can also reduced. The next terminology is that hypernatremia. So let us see hypernatremia. So hypernatremia, that means the condition which is characterized by an elevation in the serum sodium level. That means above the normal serum sodium level, the condition is called as hypernatremia. So sodium is present in the excess amount in the serum above the 135 to 145 milliequilibrium per liter. Then that condition is called as hypernatremia. The symptoms include increase in the blood volume and blood pressure. So when sodium is increases in the ECF, that means extracellular fluid, then what will happen? Then cardiac output or ECF volume get increases, and when ECF volume get increases, that means cardiac output ultimately increases, then ultimately force of contraction of heart get increases and blood pressure get increases. So symptoms of hypernatremia includes such as increase in the blood volume, increase in the extracellular fluid, increase in the cardiac output, as well as increase in the blood pressure. Now causes of hypernatremia. So hyperactivity of adrenal cortex, because aldosterone is one of the important hormone which is secreted by adrenal cortex and plays important role in the sodium ion concentration. That means reabsorption of sodium ion in the kidney is mainly caused by the aldosterone hormone, and when this hormone gets secreted in the excess amount, then aldosterone causes more reabsorption of sodium from the renal tubules, and so that sodium concentration in the serum get increases, and so that there is a hypernatremia. So one of the important cause for hypernatremia is that hyperactivity of adrenal cortex. Then another cause, prolonged administration of cortisone and ACTH. So along with aldosterone, cortisone and ACTH also causes hypernatremia. ACTH when given in extra amount or excess quantity, then it will stimulate the adrenal cortex, and again there is a more secretion or hyper secretion of aldosterone. Then another cause is loss of water from the body causing dehydration, as it occurs in the diabetes insipidus and results in the hypernatremia. So water content of the extracellular fluid get decreases in the dehydration condition, but sodium content get increases. Actually sodium content does not increases, but water get decreases, so that sodium content appears as a more increased amount. So when there is a loss of water from the body, that means in the dehydration condition, that means sodium concentration again get increases due to the loss of water from the body. So all these conditions or causes are responsible for the hypernatremia. So in today's lecture we have completed our next macromineral, that is sodium. So before concluding today's lecture, a short recap on the sodium. So let us go on the first slide. So short recap on sodium. So sodium content in the adult male is 92 grams, So sodium is present in the adult males in the quantity that is 92 grams. So in our body 92 grams of sodium is present, and out of this 92 grams 46 gram is present in the ECM, while approximately 11 grams of sodium is found in ICF, while approximately 35 grams is found in the skeleton or the bones. So about 40% of sodium is present in our extracellular fluid, while 50% of body sodium is present in the bones, and remaining 10% is present in the soft tissue. So sodium is one of the important cation or chief cation in the extracellular fluid, and its concentration in the ECF is that 142 milliequilibrium per liter, or 135 to 145 milliequilibrium per liter. So sodium is the chief cation or chief solute which is present in the blood. Now let us see the biochemical functions of sodium. So sodium in association with chloride and bicarbonate regulates our acid base balance. So along with chloride and bicarbonate ions, sodium plays important role in the regulation of our acid base balance. Then it is also necessary for the normal muscular functions and the cell permeability. Then another function of sodium is that it is required for the maintenance of osmotic pressure and fluid balance, because it is major solute which is present in the extracellular fluid, so that it is responsible for maintenance of osmotic pressure as well as fluid balance. The next function, sodium is necessary for initiating and maintaining the heartbeat, because it is one of the important ion which is present in more quantity in the ECF. Then dietary requirements. So we have seen dietary requirement of sodium for normal individuals is that 5 to 10 grams per day is the dietary requirement in the normal individuals, while in the persons having family history of hypertension, so sodium should be given or should be taken in the quantity less than 5 grams per day. Then for the patients of hypertension, so in these patients having hypertension, sodium intake should be 1 gram per day. So sodium should be taken only in the quantity that is 1 gram per day, while 10 gram of NaCl contains 4 gram of Na. That means 10 gram of common salt contains 4 gram of Na, but these hypertensive patients requires only 1 gram of sodium per day, so that they should take only 2.5 grams of common salt in their daily diet. So this is the daily requirement or recommended dietary allowance for the persons having hypertension. Then sources of sodium. So major source of sodium in our daily diet is that common salt, and which is used in the cooking medium, so that it is the major source of sodium. Then ingested foods such as bread, whole grains, leafy vegetables, nuts, eggs and milk. So these are the good sources of sodium. Now let us see absorption of sodium in the GIT. So sodium is readily absorbed in the gastrointestinal tract, so that very little amount of sodium, that means approximately less than 2%, get excreted out along with the feces, because sodium is very easily absorbed into the gastrointestinal tract. But in the conditions such as diarrhea, the large quantities of sodium along with water is lost along with the feces. Then serum level of sodium, so normal concentration of sodium is 135 to 145 milliequilibrium per liter. So this is the normal serum level of sodium. Now excretion occurs through the two important organs such as kidney and skin. So kidney is the major route for the sodium excretion, while less amount of sodium is excreted through the skin in the form of perspiration. So kidney is the major route of sodium excretion from the body. As much as 800 gram of sodium per day is filtered by the glomeruli, but from these 800 grams of sodium, 99% is again reabsorbed under the influence of hormone aldosterone, and very less amount of sodium get excreted out along with the urine. Then extreme sweating also causes considerable amount of sodium loss from the body. So skin and kidney are the two important organs for the excretion of sodium, and one important hormone which is responsible for the sodium excretion is that aldosterone. Now the disease state. So there are two terminologies. First one is the hyponatremia and second one is the hypernatremia. So let us see both these terminologies. First one is a hyponatremia. So hyponatremia, that means a condition in which serum sodium level falls below the normal level. So normal serum sodium level is 135 to 145 milliequilibrium per liter, and when this normal serum sodium level falls down, then that condition is called as hyponatremia. Hyponatremia may occur due to diarrhea, vomiting, chronic renal diseases, and adrenocortical insufficiency. So in these conditions such as diarrhea, vomiting, and chronic renal failures and adrenocortical insufficiencies, sodium get excreted out in the more quantity, and so that there is a less amount of sodium present in the serum, and that terminology is called as hyponatremia. Administration of salt free fluids. So salt free fluids, that means the fluids which does not contain any salt, that means sodium here. So sodium free fluids, and such fluids when get administered, then it may also cause hyponatremia. The manifestation of hyponatremia or the symptoms of hyponatremia may include reduced blood pressure or low BP and maybe cardiac failure. So these are the symptoms of hyponatremia. Now next terminology is that hypernatremia. Hypernatremia, that means a condition which is characterized by an elevation in the serum sodium level, that means elevation above the normal serum sodium level, that is 135 to 145 milliequilibrium per liter. And symptoms of hypernatremia includes increase in the blood volume and increase in the blood pressure, because sodium, again one of the important solute and which is important for creating the osmotic pressure as well as increasing the ECF volume, so that when this sodium is found in excess amount in the serum or blood, then volume of blood or ECF fluid get increases, and so that cardiac output also get increases, and so that blood pressure is also get increases. So one of the important symptom of hypernatremia is that increase in the blood volume and blood pressure. Now causes of hypernatremia. Hyperactivity of adrenal cortex. Hyperactivity of adrenal cortex may result in the hypersecretion of aldosterone, and when aldosterone gets secreted in excess amount, it will cause more reabsorption of sodium from renal tubules into the capillaries, and so that there is an increase of sodium concentration in the serum, and that terminology is called as hypernatremia. Then another cause, prolonged administration of cortisone and ACTH. So along with aldosterone, cortisone and ACTH are responsible for the hypernatremia. When ACTH is secreted in extra amount, then it will again stimulate the adrenal cortex, and aldosterone gets secreted in more amount, so that there may be hypernatremia. Then another cause, loss of water from body causing dehydration, as it occurs in the diabetes insipidus, results in hypernatremia. So in this condition, actual concentration of sodium does not get increases, but water get decreases from the ECF, and so that sodium concentration increases, and it will result in the condition that is hypernatremia. So in today's lecture we have completed our one of the important macro mineral or principal mineral, that is sodium. So thanks for watching this video. For any queries or questions you can comment me. Thank you again.